tell them check out the blog, bro. YouTube channel called MKO. It's pugilism, boxing algorithm. M stand for Marvin and Kevin's initials KO. Yeah, go tell them check out the blog. Right, yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MKO Pugilism Boxing Channel, talking all things boxing. Once again, we come to you with a bit of viral news that I'm sure a lot of people know about. We're talking here about, of course, Devin the Dream Haney, very promising young prospect, undefeated guy. You know, definitely a guy with a lot of promise. He's been calling out fighters, specifically Vasyl Lomachenko, in recent times. And I'm talking to you today about the very controversial words that he said on the 78 Sports YouTube channel during an interview. And during that interview there was a question and a sort of statement thrown at him, which was basically, when are you going to end the Loma hype? When are you going to end this Vasyl Lomachenko hype? You know, and to which he responded and said, well, I'll tell you one thing, ain't no white boy gonna beat me. I can fight a white boy 7 days a week or something like that, or 10 out of 10 times, and I will beat the white boy. He said, I will never lose to no white boy in my life. Ain't no white boy beating me in my life. You heard me? Ain't no white boy beating me. So these are kind of the words of Devin Haney here, and of course, just by their very nature, they've stirred up a lot of controversy. Some people are not too bothered about it. You know, they're just saying, well, he said what he said, is what it is, who cares? You know, some people are very bothered by it, and you know, they're saying, well, they should be fined and all this sort of thing. And you know, it's one of those things that is a polarizing thing. You know, it's a big statement. As far as myself, you know, I feel that, of course, by its nature, it's definitely what I would call a racist statement. It's a statement that you can kind of get away with, though, as a black guy in America. You can sort of get away with those sorts of statements of, you know, calling people, you know, white boy, and ain't no white boy gonna beat me and all this sort of thing. You know, it's something that has been said throughout boxing history by other fighters. You know, we can think back to 2008. Bernard the Executioner Hopkins was having a confrontation, a sort of argument thing in the build-up to his fight against Joe Calzaghe, and he just suddenly burst out with this thing that, I ain't never gonna lose to no white boy. Ain't no white boy gonna beat, I never lose to a white person. And, you know, Hopkins said that. He ended up, of course, losing to Joe Calzaghe in a controversial decision. I personally felt Hopkins won, was razor thin, but anyway, he ended up losing to several white boys, you know, unfortunately in his latter career. We also have the example of Alan Minter in the 1980s, who you know, he's still around, still alive, and he was going to fight Marvin Hagler, who I'm coincidentally named after. And Alan Minter, you know, he was going around talking about, oh, ain't no black man gonna take my title, mate. Ain't no black man gonna bait me and all this sort of business. And what happened to him? Well, marvelous Marvin Hagler ended up going, not only beating him, but beating him in his home country, beating him in his hometown. You know, so these sorts of terminologies and this sort of thing does tend to sort of come back to bite people. And you know, the reality is, you know, racism is a thing that I don't like to see in boxing. It's something that, you know, it doesn't have a color. You know, you can have a black racist, white racist, whatever. I mean, I do see the point of being competitive, and you know, I do think that as fighters you do need to feel sort of an air of invincibility. You do need to feel that no one can beat you. But the mistake Haney made here is that he brought color into it, he brought race into it, you know, and said, well, ain't no, this particular demographic, ain't no white boy gonna beat me. But the reality is that, you know, there's a quote unquote white boy in his division, Vasyl Lomachenko, who at this point is, you know, right up there in the pound for pound rankings, and he's someone who I would back to even beat Devin Haney, because I think he's got that more experience. He's been fighting at a very high level. He's been able to do amazing things in the ring, and I think it's very unfortunate when guys bring race and skin color into boxing, because, you know, boxing is not really about race. It's not really about the color of your skin. It's about, can you fight? That's the bottom line when it comes to boxing. It's not about what you look like, what your skin color is, you know, what your background is. Those things might come together and bring you to the sport. But at the end of the day, in that squared circle, in that ring, the bottom line is, can you fight? That's the bottom line. And, you know, there's great white fighters, there's great black fighters, there's great Latino fighters from Mexico, Argentina, wherever you want to name. English fighters, you know, there's great fighters from all over the world, of all different skin colors. You know, Manny Pacquiao come out of the Philippines. There's great boxers that come from all over the world. So I don't think this sort of talk, I know that he may not have meant it in a way to, you know, as a sort of hatred against all white people, but, you know, the problem is when you make statements like that, you kind of alienate certain demographics. So, you know, I believe, you know, especially as a professional boxer, you know, you wanna sort of include people. You wanna appeal to, you want a worldwide appeal. You wanna make money. You wanna appeal to all people. And by you sort of talking down about, you know, a white boy or whatever, you're kind of alienating a certain demographic of people. You know, I understand that, yeah, probably because of, you know, many people believe in this sort of white privilege thing. And, you know, I understand that in this instance, because he's a black guy in America or whatever, he'll sort of get away with it. But you got to also be consistent, and you got to think to yourself, what about if a white guy came out? What about if Lomachenko came out and said, well, I will never lose to a black guy. I will never lose to a black fighter, or something like that. What about if he come out with that and said that? I can guarantee you that, you know, there would be an uproar against Lomachenko. I can guarantee you any other white fighter, you know, that has a spotlight, let's say Billy Joe Saunders, any of these other top level white fighters, Gennady Golovkin, Saul Canelo Alvarez, if any of these guys started talking that sort of way about black fighters, it would be a problem. It would be an uproar. You know, people would be calling for these guys to be banned or these guys to be fined or whatever. But in this instance, it's interesting because in this case, because he is black, I think he is going to get more leeway on that. Because of past history, obviously, there's been a lot of oppression of black people, you know, in America, you know, just going several decades back. So, you know, in that sense, you know, him saying it as a young black man, he's going to get a bit more leeway. But at the same time, I believe we can't really have a double standard here. And I ultimately think that it is a shame when people bring this sort of language into boxing, because for me, boxing is a game that's about skill. It's about whether or not you can fight. And, you know, skill doesn't have any color. You got, as I've said before, you got great fighters from all different tribes, all different ethnicities. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's about your skill. It's about what you can bring to the table. A great fighter can come from any demographic, from any ethnicity. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think that sort of talk, you know, although I don't know how he meant it, he might not have, you know, he's since come out and said, you know, he's not racist, he's trying to achieve greatness. And, you know, maybe so. Maybe not a racist guy, but the thing is, that was a racist comment, and it was an unnecessary comment. It's fine for you to feel like no one can beat you, that's fair enough, but there's no need to start, you know, dissing other races or other ethnicities of people to big up yourself. If you feel unbeatable, that's cool. Feel that way, that's fine. But there's no need to sort of diss other ethnicities and whole demographics, because the reality is, as I said, you know, I believe there's a white guy in his division that will give him the business, that will beat him. And he's one of the top pound for pound guys, you know what I'm saying, in the sport. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. And yeah, just share what you think below. Don't forget to like the channel and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, MKO Pugilism, over and out. Until the next one.